Hey everyone, and welcome to the Prawn Reviews YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be talking about nano fish tanks and also about the beta fish. Now, I've never actually owned a fish tank before. This is the first one that I've ever owned. When I first started looking into things, there was a lot of information out there on the internet. A lot of it was conflicting. Some people saying do this, other people saying don't do this. And kind of what I learned was there isn't necessarily a right or wrong way to start up a fish tank. And I'm hoping by the end of today, what you'll get from me is all the information you need to walk away and get your own tank started. And if you have found this video useful, if you could please give me a like and a subscribe below, it would be really appreciated. Thank you. So what knowledge have I got to impart on you guys today? So first of all, we'll start off with what is a nano fish tank. We'll then go on to some of the costs about getting a nano fish tank set up and what some of those ongoing costs can look like. Next, we'll talk through the type of fish that you get for a nano tank, including the beta when we go through that. We'll then go on to some of the cleanup crew that you can get, shrimp, snails, other small fish inside those tanks, what equipment you'll need to get the tank going, the process of getting the tank started. This will touch on the fish in and fish out method and the nitrogen cycle. And then lastly, we'll touch on some tank maintenance and some pros and cons. So the first question you're probably going to ask me is, what is a nano fish tank? So these are generally seen as being tanks that are less than 10 gallons, and that is a US gallon or 3.8 litres to be exact. The one that you can see here on my video is 30 litres and it's 45 centimetres wide and roughly 25 centimetres high and 25 centimetres deep. Now, I would say that you should probably go for one that's got dimensions with a wider length. You can get these square ones, but as fish tend to swim from side to side rather than up and down, I would probably say the wider ones are better than the square ones for the fish. And some of the reasons that people tend to go for a nano tank is because they're cost effective. They're generally relatively inexpensive to get up and running. They're good if you have restricted space for where you want to put it. And they're also quite beginner friendly. So that's some of the main reasons that people tend to go for a nano tank. Next on our list, we've got what equipment will we need to get this tank up and running? So we're going to need the tank itself. Preferably, if you can get one with a lid, it should stop things jumping out of the tank that shouldn't be. You're going to need a light so that your plants can grow nice and healthy and you can see those fish swimming around. You're going to need some substrate, whether that's gravel or sand that runs along the bottom. You can see I've gone for a white sand there. You'll need a filter system. So there's lots of different ones you can get. You can do your own research on those, but I would generally say for nano tanks, an in-house sponge filter will generally do the job. You don't need to go too all out, I would say, on a filter system. And then last but by no means least, you're going to need a heater. Most of these freshwater tropical fish live in warm climates. So depending on where you live and how warm your house is, you're more likely than not going to need to have a heater to keep that tank warm. So mine's set to 26 degrees Celsius for all these fish that I have in there. Now that's all the essential equipment. The non-essentials is essentially your decorative. So it's your stones, any sort of ornaments you want to put in there, your plants, etc. I would really recommend getting live plants in there, and I'll touch on that later as we talk about getting the tank started in the nitrogen cycle. But it's all up to you. I'm just speaking from my own experience. Now that we know what a nano tank is and what equipment we'll need, the next thing we have is getting the tank started and the nitrogen cycle. So just to give you a quick brief on the nitrogen cycle, essentially what that is when you have fish or any other sort of matter inside your tank, like decaying leaves or fish food, that breaks down and it makes ammonia, which is toxic to fish. So what you need is these bacteria to essentially grow inside your tank that break down the ammonia and convert it into nitrite. Now, once that's happened, you then need some more bacteria to grow that convert that nitrite into nitrate. Now, nitrate it's still toxic to fish at high levels, but nowhere near as much as ammonia and nitrite are. So that's kind of the nitrogen cycle. So that's how it gets from fish poo to ammonia into nitrite and then into nitrate. Now, the way you get nitrate out of your tank is with one option is water changes. So this is where you can take about 10 to 15% of your water out once a week, throw it away and put some new water in it. The other way that can help is by adding plants to your tank. So what do plants need to grow? They need light from the light that you've got on your tank, and they also need nitrates. So that's the other way to get those nitrates out of the water. Now, from what I've just explained there, what you have to do when you first get a fish tank is let that cycle happen. So you need to let all that bacteria grow inside your tank so that it can process the ammonia, the nitrite, and the nitrate that will be coming from all that fish poo. Now, there's two main ways really that you can get that cycle to happen. One of those is the fish in method, and the other one is the fish out method. Both of them basically involve some organic matter, getting things kick-started and getting those bacteria growing. So the fish out method generally uses something like fish food. You put that in your tank, it breaks down and gets the cycle going. The other method, which is the one that I used, is the fish in method. So this is where you will put a small number of fish in to start off with. You'll let them do their thing. Obviously, they'll poo when you feed them, and that will get that cycle started for you. And then every couple of weeks, you can probably add in another fish at a time. So with my tank, what I did is I started off with 2 of the little ember tetras to start off with. And then every week or 2, I would add 1 more until I had about 5 or 6 of them. And then I left that for a couple of weeks. And then I started adding my other things like my shrimp and my snails, and got all those in there first before I then added the betta afterwards. So now that you know a bit more about nano tanks, what equipment you need, the nitrogen cycle, now you'll be asking, what can I actually put in this tank? So there's lots of different fish you can put in there. You are restricted by the size of your tank to how much you can put in there. Various things online will tell you that you can put up to a centimetre per litre of your tank. Others will tell you an inch a gallon. I think somewhere in the middle of those is about right, but it also depends what you're putting in there. So things like the little cherry shrimps that you can see in my tank, they have a very small bioload. So things like that aren't really going to impact your parameters too much. I've got one nerite snail in here, which is quite good for eating algae. I've also got some Amano shrimp, which are quite good for eating algae too. And then I've got about 5 ember tetras in there, which are little shoaling fish. Sometimes they swim on their own, sometimes they swim together. And then lastly, I've got my betta fish. Now, lastly, the thing that you should do before you buy your fish is do your research. So, like I've said, shrimps, some snails are generally good cleanup crew, so they'll eat leftover food, things like that. Some tetras can nip at betta tails if you are going to get a betta, and bettas are generally quite territorial. So I would say put them in your tank last, so everything else is more at home, and then the betta feels like it's the outsider being added to the tank rather than the other way around. I found that quite useful, and my betta hasn't given any of my other fish any other problems at all. So I'd just like to say a big thank you for watching today. I hope this video has been helpful. If you'd like to drop me a message if there's anything else you'd like me to give more information on, and please give me a like and a subscribe. Thank you.